Hey, in today's video, we are talking about the Shopify Exchange Marketplace. If you have never heard of this, this is a place where people who have Shopify stores can list them for sale, and somebody who either already has a Shopify store or experience or is interested in purchasing a online business that is hosted through Shopify, this is a marketplace for that. And this is a place that I vetted. I would say that I cruised this website for about 6 months solid. I just was really interested in the idea of buying an online business, and I had gotten some experience in drop shipping and, had some frustrations with my own, lack of experience and expertise, and thought, okay, maybe buying an existing store would be a good way to shortcut sort of my shortcomings, right? To just leapfrog over where I was struggling and kind of get me to where I want to go. But ultimately, I decided after really lurking on this site for several months that I just don't think this is a good place for beginners to go. I think that if you're looking at buying an established online business, you're better off going with a site that actually has a legitimate broker, where there's just more than listing the site for sale. Basically, almost any site, any Shopify store that wants to be sold can be listed on the Marketplace Exchange, which is great. Small stores or people who like to build stores can turn a quick buck. They can build a store that looks awesome. Maybe they have this experience. They can even load it with products that you can drop ship, through Oberlo or some of the other apps that have products and the connections already made. So, you can really just focus on running the business rather than picking out products. But I think that if you have enough expertise to evaluate whether or not one of these businesses is good, then I think that you're probably better off building your own, because then you don't have to guess or wonder or worry whether or not the previous owner of the store that's not very profitable, whether or not they made a mistake somewhere. And that is the actual reason that they are trying to sell the business. Now, I have vetted a lot of these, and if you're still looking at this, you're like, but I'm really interested in buying a dropshipping business. I really want to get into dropshipping, and I think that buying a business will just get me there. Well, I just want to go through, I love slideshows. I love slides because they just help me keep on track. But let's look at what most of these listings look like. The numbers are different. But in general, when you look at a listing, you're going to see, oh, there's a certain average profit amount a month, which is awesome. Like you can really easily get distracted by the amount of money that the store says that it's making. And that number is not something that is verifiable through Shopify, because they may be able to know how much money is running through the store, but you have to rely upon the seller's representations of what their expenses are and what they actually spend when you get down to what the average profit amount is. And it could be that that's an estimate, or that is a number that could be taken without really incorporating what the actual costs of running the business are. I really doubt that this average profit a month also takes into account the expenses of running a business, like having a business, applying and having a business license, for insurance, for just all of the various things that come with running a business. I would be shocked if that were the case, and if this average profit per month was legit. But when you're in here, you can also see, what the average revenue is, and that's something that can be verified through Shopify because they take the payments. So at least what the money is going through there, and they can also verify how many sessions a month the store is having. So those are good numbers to know. But everything else is sort of, you're accepting what the representations are, especially if you don't do due diligence. And I would say never buy a store without doing your full due diligence. But you often see the reason for selling this business. It says, I decided this store to put the capital into a real estate opportunity, or I like some sort of grandiose, like, I'm going to use this money to buy a house, or a lot of times it's to invest in real estate, or I want to buy another store, or whatever. I really have to question why it is that if somebody had a really good thing going, why they would sell it. And that's something that I would have to really balance and really talk to the seller about directly, especially if it was a business that was really expensive, right? You'd say, oh, well, if it's only going to cost me $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000, you don't worry so much. You'd say, oh, well, maybe they built it just for the purpose of selling it, which is fine. And if that is the reason that this guy is selling this store, that's totally fine. But if that's not the case, I want to know, because there are a lot of reasons why people sell Shopify stores, and a lot of those are not good for the buyers. Now let's look at a really common graph that you see in I would say most Shopify stores that are for sale. You see a graph that shows this year, right? A store that has zero or no revenue, no traffic, no nothing, and then a giant spike, and then it falls off. This is a really bad sign. This is not a business. This is a dead store. This store only survives when a ton of cash is dumped into it. And so if you get distracted, and you're looking at the listing and you say, oh, $103,000 in profit a month, like that's amazing. Like it is amazing. It's totally amazing. But then when you look at this and you say, okay, I'm not saying that this seller is doing anything wrong, but what this seller is doing is something that a beginner may not know how to do to make that happen. And if you are experienced enough to make this graph happen, then why on earth would you buy a dropshipping store? Why would you not create your own? Most likely what this person is doing, this is a brand new store, right? It goes back to February 2019. So this store, it's August of 2019 now. This store is 6 months old, and they really didn't start doing anything with it until April and then May, and you can see there's a giant bump here. And I don't know that much about this store, but my guess is that there was a massive investment in traffic, either Google ads or Facebook ads. Probably a lot. And so, if you don't know how to use those platforms to generate something like this that is profitable, because it's one thing you say, oh, I know how to make a Facebook ad, or oh, I know how to get stuff up on Google Shopping. That's great. But if you don't understand how to figure out whether or not you are making money or losing money, then a graph like this, to me, especially when a beginner is looking at purchasing a dropshipping store, this is frightening. And I would tell you to run away, because this is a business that can only be operated by someone who is very experienced with driving traffic, driving the shopping traffic. If you don't know how to do that, you're either going to have to learn it on the fly, or you're going to have to hire it out, hire someone else to drive the traffic for you. And again, this could be a good idea if the store has a really good product that is unique and is selling really well, and it is growing, whatever. That could be a good reason to buy the store and then hire somebody to run the traffic for you. But if you don't know much about the product and you can't identify whether or not this is a good investment, a graph that looks like this is a total turnoff for me. There's no way I'm going to invest money in a store like this, like no chance. Next over here, we're looking at the traffic. And again, what you can see are the numbers. You see a giant spike and then a big drop off. And of course, that's going to correlate with the revenue. Naturally, it makes sense that they would dump a bunch of money into traffic. I'm going to guess Facebook ads to drive the spike. And then the store actually converts, which is great. I mean, people are going there, and they got 164,000 visits over the period of a couple months, and then it converted enough to make them allegedly $100,000, which is pretty awesome. But again, these are people who knew how to do this, assuming that their numbers are accurate and honest. If you don't know how to do that, then I would hesitate to dump a lot of money in learning how to do this on somebody else's site that would otherwise be dead, but for them. You can see here they list the expenses. So they have the Shopify plan, the inventory warehouse, employees, the domain, and Facebook ads. When it says employees, you want to find out what their employees are doing, who they are. Are they coming with you? What sort of role do they have in the company? Generally the listings, they don't say what the employees do, and you're going to want to know what that is. Also, the inventory warehouse. Are they storing the inventory, or are they also doing the packing and shipping? Right? Great question. Is this a place where you buy the inventory and then it drops it off at the warehouse, and then when you have an order come in, do you have to contact the warehouse, or do you have to go to the warehouse yourself? Or is this something that happens automatically? Is there an app that connects this up? You should have a lot of questions about what the inventory warehouse is and does. And if you can't get answers for that, then I'm totally turned off, not interested. You know, and then, oh yeah, of course, Facebook ads, $20,000 a month. So they're dumping 20 grand a month in to make that 100 grand. Again, I have to say that it doesn't add up, because you have the revenue per month. They have listed at $103,000, and then they have the average profit per month at $103,000. You can see that they're not deducting the costs of the inventory from the revenue. They're not deducting the costs of the employees, of the advertising, or anything else. And the average revenue per month is probably 2/3 of that, maybe. I mean, if it's not even less. I have some real questions about how much they're actually spending on advertising, honestly, because they have basically a dead store that only gets traffic when they drive Facebook ads. And so is this really $20,000 worth of traffic, or is this $50,000 worth of traffic? I just have some real concerns about that totally overall. Plus the total revenue doesn't match. So average revenue per month, over, yeah, 619,000, and the only months where they really had any revenue was May, June, and July. And then you do the numbers, and it's, I don't know. I just would question that. I would want to know exactly how it is they're making that money, and what the actual expenses are. Another thing you got to look at always is the details at the end. And again, these are why I really don't like this stuff for beginners. If you don't look this through, you say, okay, the suppliers of this product, this winning product, is probably a one product store. The supplier, they're not going to tell you who their supplier is. They're not giving you the supplier. They're not giving you that information. You're going to take over the store and have to source the product on your own from probably someone else. They may be going off to work with a supplier on something else, or maybe the reason they're selling the store is because their supplier doesn't want to work with them anymore and they can't sell this product anymore. I have some real concerns when a Shopify store with a product, they won't give you the supplier. Social media, I care like only a little bit about, because so much of this can be faked. 750 followers, those could be bought, and who knows how much engagement that actually brings. And I don't know that that necessarily has a lot of value. Personal support, 7 days of personal support seems like a really small amount. You'll spend 7 days just trying to get into the file and into the website and see what it does and how it does, especially when you're brand new. And finally, the mailing list, they have 37,000 subscribers on there. And sometimes it seems worthwhile to buy an existing store that has an active mailing list. And that can be good so long as the mailing list was collected, legally and lawfully, and in compliance with the GDPR. And but again, it would have to be a really good price, and the right price for me to look at the subscribers, especially since what people do when they have the mailing list is they can take it and just sell it to someone else, and you would never know necessarily that they did that, even if they agreed that you would have exclusive rights to it. I mean, you just can't trust necessarily that they're not just going to go and do other things with it or continue to market to the mailing list. It's just people do that a lot. So let's see, if you're thinking about purchasing a Shopify store on the Shopify Marketplace, I've got to tell you to be super cautious, especially if you are new to the idea of buying an online business. Do extensive online investigating, do your due diligence, check everything and request access to everything. And don't just accept the representation of things. Get into the account, get into the records, like get in there and see for your own eyes what the results are. And this is especially for Shopify because there's no vetting process, right? In Empire Flippers, there's somebody who's doing that vetting process before it gets to you, before it gets listed. And that is on you if you're doing that through the Shopify Marketplace. When you decide that you are interested in a store, do not buy it unless you are very experienced with the method of driving traffic that has been used with a store previously. You say, okay, well, if Facebook ads was the way they drove traffic, then you need to make sure that you're able to do that. Or you need to have a concrete plan for how you are going to get those sales. You also want to look at the product. And I would say that the product is probably the most important thing besides, how the product is sold, what the offer is, but vet the product extensively. A lot of times the reason why successful stores close or are sold is when the product stops selling well, at the end of a trend, right? The summer is over and this particular unicorn glasses were super hot because some influencer, Kim Kardashian, wore them and everybody had them for 2 minutes, and then you buy the store, at the end of the trend. I mean, it's dead. It doesn't matter how much money you're throwing into it. Nobody is going to buy those anymore because Kim Kardashian is wearing sunglasses with Pluto on it now, and those are the ones that you should be selling. So I'm really cautious. Like, look at the product. Is this a trending product? Is this something that is evergreen that could, continue to be sold? If it looks like a trending product, like, don't touch it. Do not touch it whatsoever. Verify carefully what assets you are getting and what you need. Like, what accounts are coming over with it? Do you need to get your a new email automation account? Do you need to get a new place to host your digital photos? I mean, what is it that you're getting from them, and make sure that they still have it, right? That maybe they were using it in the past and they somehow didn't lose it for some sort of terms of service violation. This is really important because you could get hands on this and there's no broker there, to help you through this, and to eventually you just make a decision to release the money, and then you find out later, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that, and the risk is just greater. I mean, I put the Shopify Marketplace on the same level as I do with Flippa, right? Because anybody can list the thing for sale there. I mean, anybody. And so there are people who go there who build things just to be sold to beginners. I mean, there are a lot of people on the marketplace are preying upon beginners who may be like you and who were like me. And I will have to 100% admit that there were times when I had stars in my eyes and was like, oh, this would be a really great business to take over and run. It would be super fun. But then I would get into it and then find out things in the due diligence that, all of the red flags were like, really great website where, really great store, had really great sales, but then the seller's like, oh yeah, I'm just taking this one product with me. I'm leaving everything else. And then you get access to, what it is that is selling. And it turns out that one product is the only thing that is selling. And the rest of the products are kind of, I mean, that one product was the whole reason people were coming to the store. Or, I looked at another site where you find that most of the traffic to the store that currently existed was from the seller's podcast. And the podcast wasn't coming with the store. The podcast was going with the seller. And so you say, okay, well, without you, this website is basically worthless. And so you say, oh, well, I'm not going to pay 25 grand for a site that doesn't involve you. If I can't connect to you at all, then, you are the product, you are the blue ocean, and you go away. I just have a website. Basically, you just have a website. You have a domain name and a website that you can play around with, but there's no traffic to it. So just to summarize before I wrap this up, the risks of buying on Shopify Marketplace. There's a huge risk that what you are looking at, the listing you were looking at, is a dead store. It's totally dead. They're selling it because it's not working or it's going downhill, and you're basically on your way to purchasing something that people are just trying to get rid of. They're trying to cut their losses. You could be running the risk of buying a product that is dead, that there's nothing you could do to resurrect it. You're basically starting a new store if you were going to start vetting a new product and putting it up there. You could be looking at fake traffic. So Shopify doesn't verify the traffic, and if the site isn't on Google Analytics, there may be no other way to verify where the traffic is coming from. So they could just tell you, oh, hey, it's all organic. But how do you verify? So if you can't verify where the traffic is coming from, don't buy it, or don't pay very much for it, I'll tell you that. It could be a situation where the Facebook ads account that is associated with the Facebook page that has all the followers has been banned for terms of service violations or for advertising violations or something that you don't know about. People losing their Facebook ads account. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say people losing their Facebook ads account, and you are looking or thinking about buying a site that depends upon Facebook ads traffic, stop right now and don't buy anything. Literally, don't buy anything. A lame social media situation, you could be looking at, they're listing, and seeing, like, going to the sites and seeing a huge Instagram following and a huge Facebook following and Snapchat and YouTube and all the rest. But, that stuff can all be manipulated. You can pay micro workers to go there and to like, share, comment, all that stuff that can be manipulated to boost the appearance of this store being valuable. The email list could be horrible. I mean, just because somebody has 30,000 emails to hand to you doesn't mean that that email list can be converted into anything. It could be that all those emails were collected illegally, or maybe they're fake, or maybe they're just not very interactive. And as soon as you start sending emails to them because nobody has marketed to them in 12 months, that you get half of those people unsubscribe right away, and then a third of those emails that remain go into the junk email box, and you're actually only talking to 1,000 people who aren't that interested in what it is that you have to say because they don't know you, and they haven't been warmed up at all. And so like sending emails to a cold and dead email list, that doesn't appeal to me at all. That's not very valuable. Now, it's one thing if they can provide you, the seller can provide you with, all the emails that they have sent in the last 12 months, and the email list is super responsive and it has great open rates and that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, maybe that is valuable, and maybe they're making a lot of sales through that. Maybe I get excited about it then, but they just because somebody has 30-some thousand emails or 100,000 emails, I don't care too much if it does nothing for the business. So in general, whenever I talk about buying an online business or any business whatsoever, you want to do your due diligence. Make sure that you have the skills necessary to run it. As a beginner, this is going to be, a critical hurdle to get over, right? It's like chicken before the egg. Like, how can I run a business if I've never run a business? And it's going to be challenging for you to acquire those skills that you need. And generally what I recommend is that if you are looking at buying a drop shipping store or looking at buying a Shopify business, what I recommend that you do first is start your own Shopify store. Just for whatever, your own drop shipping store, and learn how all the pieces go together, and learn how to connect the dots, and learn what works in selecting a product and not, and learn how to connect the Shopify store to getting the product supplied and in the mail, and then what happens when you have customers, and what happens when you have a return, and all those things. You can do that without spending thousands of dollars. You could probably do that on a couple $100, literally. It costs, you can get a free trial on Shopify. I'm not shilling Shopify right now, but you could probably find a code somewhere. Somebody is giving a free trial away of Shopify. You can load the store up with products through Oberlo, it's an app, or through AliExpress, or just something where you're not actually taking hold of the products yourself. Though if you really want to, you could buy your own products and then host them in your garage or at a warehouse, and then sell them out. And then just practice. Do this for a couple months and you'll probably lose money, but think about it. Like, wouldn't it be better to lose $3, $4, $5, or even $1,000 in getting some experience in Shopify and drop shipping to learn a couple things? One, do you like it? Do you want to do this as a business? And two, you can use all that information that you have to go ahead and vet that ultimate business that you want to buy, because then you'll know how to run it, and you'll know what your risks are, and you'll know, basically all the things that I'm telling you now. You'd be like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. I totally agree. Or maybe you disagree with me. But if you're watching this right now and you don't know whether or not you agree or disagree with me, then you shouldn't be buying stores on the Shopify Marketplace. And in fact, I pretty much recommend that almost nobody buy stores on the Shopify Marketplace, and unless they really, really, really know what they're doing, or they are really, really, really prepared to handle whatever happens, right? They are totally prepared to, toss out the product that the store previously sold and get a new product, or to drive traffic another way, or to, start from scratch, or just to be prepared to lose their money. If you were going to look for something that would be worthwhile to buy, I would look for an evergreen product, so something that is not trending, something that people always want to buy. I would look for a traffic that is diversified, so from lots of different places, from Google, from Facebook, from YouTube, from the email list, from direct, like people know the brand. I would look for revenue that is stable or has small fluctuations like this, and I would look for traffic, that again is really stable or just goes like this. It can be quarterly or it can be seasonal, but I just wouldn't want to see this and this And I would also want to see a store that was at least 2 years old. And I would want to see that flat line or that wave, you know, that was consistent, that went for at least 2 years. I don't think I would throw down big money in a drop shipping store on the promise that they have a great product and a great brand, you know, that people love, unless the store has been around for a while. I don't trust the flash in the pan, and I do not trust big graphs that look like this. This is just frightening. All right, don't spend money on anything that has this big spike and it's a short spike. Like a big short spike is something that should turn you off, or you should just pay very little money for that. I don't think this is a valuable store at all without the sellers. Without the current sellers and without their expertise, this store is worth very little unless you are bringing with you that same expertise. So this has been my review for beginners of whether or not you should invest in a store on the Shopify Marketplace Exchange. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. As always, please subscribe. It helps me out. I'm on the journey to building the channel to at least 1,000 subscribers. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.